Hi, welcome to another video for the Thinking Inking class on 2peasinabucket.com. This one is on distress inks and stamping with these inks. These inks are specially formulated to do all kinds of fun things, and on this one I'm going to focus on stamping with them. So here is the example project. All of these flowers were stamped with distress inks in different ways. First, I'm just going to show you basic stamping. This yellow butterfly here was stamped with the Scattered Straw Distress Ink, which is a beautiful yellow. Now when you stamp with these inks, they look a little splotchy and uneven at first, but as it absorbs, it smooths out and leaves a wonderful, soft image. And I really like the colors that all these distress inks come in, so it's always good to use these inks just for basic stamping. And this, by the way, is my favorite Hero Art stamp. It's the Heart-Winged Butterfly. Now here's something you can do to kind of step up your stamping with distress ink. This uses Perfect Pearls. These are also from Ranger, who makes distress inks. It's just a pigment powder, and what's special and great about this pigment powder is that it's got a built-in resin, which I'll talk about in a second. So here I stamped with my distress ink. Now I told you before that distress ink stays wet for a little bit, right? So if you stamp this and then quickly put on some of these Perfect Pearls, then it will hold the Perfect Pearls. Now these Perfect Pearls are designed to stick, become set when wet, so that wet ink is holding the Perfect Pearls in place. Now this is something I also like to do to make sure they're held, is I do like the perfume walkthrough with the water. You spritz the water in the air and then brush the stamped image through the mist, and that sets it. So you can see that nice shine that you get with Perfect Pearls. It's really pretty. It comes in great colors too. Now, this is something really unique with distress ink. You can heat emboss with it. Usually, you can see this butterfly is clear embossed with distress ink. Usually dye inks you can't heat emboss with because they dry quickly, but distress inks stay wet a little bit longer, so you can quickly shake on some embossing powder. Here I'm just using clear ultrafine embossing powder and heating it up, and you can see how the gorgeous peeled paint green color of distress ink shows through and now has a nice shine because I use clear embossing powder on it. So again, since these distress inks are formulated to stay wet just a little bit longer, I think it's like 30 seconds, you can heat emboss it, which is unusual for a dye ink. Now this is something fun I like to do with distress ink. You can do partial embossing. So here I'm stamping it with this red fired brick distress ink, and I'm shaking on some silver embossing powder. Now I'm going to flick it off pretty firmly so that I'm knocking off a lot of the embossing powder and only a little bit is left. You see how you see the red showing through? So it's not completely covered with silver powder. And when you heat it up, what happens is that silver takes on a red tone. It gives a really unique effect. So you could stamp in like green and put on a little bit of blue embossing powder and get a cool look. There's lots of things you can do. You can see that red shine through. Here's another example. This is Antiquities, I think it's called, from Ranger, and I love this, this color. So I'm stamping with some blue broken china distress ink, shaking on this embossing powder that has flakes of gold and other colors in it. Now I'm flicking a lot of it off so that when I heat it, you'll see that green embossing powder along with all the other little colors in it, and then the blue ink also shines through. So it's really fun what you can do with these distress inks and embossing powders. The possibilities are really endless. And there's the final result. And by the way, you can use this on any kind of paper. I just use some off-white cardstock. Now this is watercolor stamping with distress ink. This is also really fun. Here I'm inking up the stamp with some, I think this is dried marigold, which is like an orangish color of distress ink. So I'm inking up the stamp, and then I'm rubbing some vintage photo, which is a brown color, distress ink, just on the edges of the stamp. And now I'm going to spritz this with my mini mister, which is by Ranger also. It's the perfect mist of water. And see, I'm getting just a little wet. And now when I go to stamp this, it'll end up drying in the most beautiful watercolor look. I like to heat it with the heat gun so it dries right away. Gives really, for me, I like the results better than just letting it air dry. It's really soft and really pretty. Now some of the other images here are stamped on cork or stamped and partially embossed, stamped on pattern paper. There's a mix of things here. So you can stop by twopeasinthebucket.com and look at the June 17th post, and it will talk about all the different butterflies I did on here, and also have a PDF and more tips and techniques. Thanks for watching.